What? No, I'm not gonna do this joke.
Oh, thank God. Play me off, Keichy.
Why? Because everyone's a silly pony this episode.
Oh, son of a bitch, I was about to go get a drink. Head over to Lily Pete's channel and kill some brain cells.
Hey, you silly ponies. You're a silly pony, and I'm a silly pony for watching these silly ponies.
What's the matter, British Ninja? Did Doctor Who get cancelled? Did the Queen, after 400 years of eternal darkness, finally die? Did you get turned down by a bunch of pseudo-intellectuals for your dozenth tryout? Do you need a hug? Do you need a cuddle?
It's dumb, it's obvious, it's lazy, it's boring, it's insulting.
So, silver quilted?
So at this point, you probably know I have a love-hate relationship with Neal Dusedau.
Oh Jesus, more Neal Dusedau white-splaining. This is the hysterical part, much like Lily Pete when he addresses the molestia topic. British Ninja is about to go down a treacherous wormhole no sane person in their right mind would ever hope to do so. Disclaimer time! Do not go downvote British Ninja's video, or leave hateful comments. I still think if we explain calmly and coolly while British Ninja is wrong, before he runs off to Tumblr and starts dyeing his hair exotic colors.
Neal is a writer with some pretty great and fresh ideas, but his execution of said ideas is normally his Achilles heel.
I'm going to try hard to limit the snark here, but execution of an idea is literally everything. The idea of treating everyone equally, i.e. communism, is arguably a great ideal, but has always failed because of, you guessed it, execution. By the other side of this, I can assume the vast majority of you have watched Guardians of the Galaxy. You know that movie with the walking tree and the talking raccoon? If I said it was executed properly, the correct answer you should reply back with is, well, duh. You pretty much didn't need to say anything. When a parent tells a child they had a great idea and it went poorly, that generally means I need to find a way to say that you failed super nicely. And that's what British Ninja is doing here. Neal sucked, and Ninja's not willing after 3 definitive instances to admit that Neal Dusedau is fucking terrible.
Able to properly incorporate his ideas with the main characters makes some aspects look forced and unbelievable, but when he does get it right, he just flat out nails it.
Let me dumb this down for you. When he's right, and when he's wrong, he's wrong. Thank you, Ninja. That was some in-depth analysis. Not to mention when you use the terms forced and unbelievable in this instance, it's redundant. Here, let me add forced, unbelievable, disingenuous. All would amount to the same thing. And then there's the nailed it remark. If you're going to defend someone with a shoddy body of work, some examples would be appreciated.
Half where Neal only wrote the story and left the execution to the Fox brothers, the new guys who wrote Gift of Maud Pie. So it's hard to decipher who's to blame. Is it Neal for poorly fleshing out how this would work, or is it the Fox brothers who misunderstood what Neal was trying to do?
The Gift of the Maud Pie does what is exactly it's supposed to. I'm not going to forego giving an example because I recall you, yourself, were well pleased with the episode. Here, let's take a listen.
In a review, I tend to watch the episode twice, once for mindless enjoyment, and then again for critique, maybe a third time if I enjoyed it. I had to watch this episode 5 times just to make sure I didn't skip over something. And you know what? I'll happily watch it again. I give The Gift of Maud Pie 8.5 out of 10.
Now, I'm not going to be lazy and focus on the score, as you've discontinued that practice, so let's play something far more telling.
This episode 5 times just to make sure I didn't skip over something.
5 times, that's more than double the amount of your normal viewing. So looking back, the Fox brothers were unable to understand Neal Dusedau's vision? Guffaw, sir.
Looking at the story, I can definitely pick out bits that remind me of Neal's past episodes. Much like how What About Discord ties the audience to Twilight's paranoia, Applejack's Day Off ties the audience to Rarity's boredom. They spend so much time on Vespasian to emphasize how much AJ is wasting both our and Rarity's time. Now that's a cool idea, but it still wastes our time.
Not to derail myself, but you made me realize another reason this episode sucks. The person, as you put it, the one we're supposed to empathize with, is Rarity. Her time and our time are being wasted. But the lesson in the episode isn't hers to learn, so she's made to suffer for no reason whatsoever.
Execution of this scene is so dragged out and obvious that it's just boring. We know how this is going to be solved, and unlike Rarity Investigates, there's nothing to keep the audience engaged, and keeping the audience's attention is the most important aspect of any piece of media.
Don't let the audience get bored? I say, British Ninja, cutting-edge critique. But let's address Rarity's investigation, one of, no, the most straightforward episode in MLP, if I am. Why, in God's green earth, would fans be engaged in Rarity's investigation? I mean, sure, you don't bother to explain such a bold statement, so let me point out some possible concerns. Rainbow Dash is as painfully stupid as Applejack. No wait, I would say worse. Instead of actively trying to help with matters, like AJ did, Rainbow Dash is getting in the way, and when she's not getting in the way, she's being an annoying douche. Whereas Applejack in her day off is doing what makes her happy, working hard. Granted, it's not fun to watch, but at least she's not trying to be a cringy asshole.
Discord managed to get around this issue by having Discord and Twilight work off each other, which helped pass the time between the more dragged out and the more meaningful scenes.
Worked off of. The whole episode is literally Discord averting Twilight's involvement. Which you could have said that's what I meant. But then you actually would have had to shown an example here. Like seriously, after viewing this video, I'm seeing where you might have had a point somewhere along the lines. I'm just hearing it is, it does, and expecting fans just to believe you. This is an amazing John Enner impersonation.
Only has two locations, the farm and the spa. The fact that they rarely cut back to the farm makes the spa feel like one continuous scene stuffed to the brim with padding.
What the fuck? I literally fucking died here. One more time.
Spa. The fact that they rarely cut back to the
I really can't breathe. Much less take how stone-faced you're being at this moment here. Forgive me, if I fuck this up, my brain just shut off, but you're mad there are two scenes? Well, yes, the spa is boring, that's why the episodes generally only focus on it briefly in the past, like Castle Sweet Castle, or Green Isn't Your Color, so forth and so on. The spa is not an interesting place to be in the show. And you know what would have worked here? Referencing one of those old episodes. I know it's a pain in the ass to go back and download one of those videos, but I'm sensing a little resistance here. You could have even got away with just using a still image.
You lazy fuck.
The lesson is a unique and interesting one that is rarely seen in kids shows and would probably apply to more adults than children, which makes it all the more insulting when it's delivered in such a childish way, but I'll get to that in a second. So, from what I can see, and you're happy to disagree in the comments, I blame the Fox brothers. I'm not going to say that Neal would have done a better job because there's a high chance that he would have botched the execution as well.
Except I don't have to, you already did it for me.
I had to watch this episode 5 times just to make sure I didn't skip over something. And you know what? I'll happily watch it again. I give The Gift of Mod Pie 8.5 out of 10.
Now, do you hear that? That's you talking about diversity and variety. That's the same thing, by the way, Ninja. I know you like redundancy and repetition. Now, why do we know that he's willing to run something into the ground? This is your words, not mine.
Canon gag, I groaned thinking this would go on for most of the episode. And then it stopped when the shop was closed. I checked the time to realize, oh my god, I'm still in the first act. Compared to how boring and slow the last Maid Hatton episode was, this is a damn roller coaster jumping from location to location at such a fast pace that you can barely keep up.
Such is the vicar and determination to defend Neal Dusedau. You're able to trip all over yourself. See, Ninja, it's one thing when I feel that you have a bad opinion, and it's more likely that not I'm entirely wrong. It's another thing when you can't use examples to back up your claims. You can go back and put those in. It's condemning of your work, your word, and credibility as a whole when you go out on a limb and contradict yourself. My point isn't FNGR is contradicting you, you're contradicting you.
Said feedback from an outsider can spot ways that you're overcomplicating things, but it needs to be a subtle solution, an option that could have been believably overlooked, not something that's painstakingly obvious.
You know what would be good? No, great right here? An example. Say, British Ninja, can you start a Patreon, maybe a $5 tier that might be entitled to some basic analysis and review? Why yes, perhaps if you were paid, compensated, that means the same thing by the way, Ninja, you'd feel motivated, inspired, encouraged, potentially even determined to do the most basic of analysis.
Yes. I've seen people compare this problem to video making. For example, here's a clip from Fatmanfalling.
But more importantly, the notion of reevaluating your routine and above all being open enough to change it is a valuable thing. So you're telling me that I can push D, and that does exactly the same thing as picking the selection tool from the drop-down menu? This is going to revolutionize everything.
My rebuttal is that video making is rather a complex thing that requires you to know the ins and outs of the software to fully make your workflow as efficient as...
Alright, we have an example here. I noticed that you went with feeding the pigs instead of the irrigation of the field. Why? Because you wanted the simplest example you could possibly use. This from the same person who bitched and whined about being treated like a total simpleton. There are more complex things on Applejack's farm, and you know what? They would have been boring to learn about. So yes, the writing staff kept it simple, not just for kids, but for everyone. The show could have just as easily explained at length why chicken feed couldn't be used for the pigs, or the rest of the animals. The question is, why would you care? Well, why can't we feed everyone with the apples? And AJ could have explained the economics on why that's a terrible idea, because apples are the #1 cash crop on the farm. Not just that, but if you had had any intelligence on math coming out of AJ's mouth, it would have been immersion breaking. And that's not me being a dick. Go back to Applebuck's season in season 1 where she's whining to Big Mac about his fancy math. AJ's a simpleton. She always has been and she always will be.
Applejack didn't have an issue with the way she did things. That fell on Rarity being a selfish diva. Now, that isn't a new thing, Rarity's been selfish before, but why couldn't you portray Applejack as being exhausted from all this extra work? Then, Rarity looking into the problem would portray her as an actual friend, giving up her own time at the spa to help out Applejack be more efficient. Again, I'm okay with her being a diva.
Because Rarity runs 3 shops now, and giving up her free time for a friend who literally blew her off how many times? Wouldn't make her a friend, it would make her a doormat. Rarity acted perfectly within the guidelines of her character, and even for those guidelines, as someone who spent so much of their early time trolling Rarity fans way back when, I can safely say she wasn't out of line. Rarity, getting a rare chance to take time off with her workload and wanting to spend it with her friends, does not a diva make. Wanting to hang out with her friends, especially in a show called, get this, Friendship is Magic, after a hard day's work, doesn't make one an uppity bitch, unlike manipulating a baby dragon to be her manservant. That, my dear ninja, is literally apples and oranges.
Raise your hand if you thought Rainbow Dash needed to be in this episode. Okay, let's see, that's 1, 2, 0.
Let me reply. Who felt we needed this to be an episode? Notice what you said there, needed to have. Not that it was bad, I'm asking the same open-ended way of needed. Very little enjoyable things on this show, based on slice of life, need to happen. I'm confident I could take a top 100 unneeded fun moments in MLP if I am. Hell, anyone from you to Patrick Roberry could. This show is overflowing with them.
She's portrayed as being stereotypically tomboyish to the nth term. While I like how she's secretly getting more in touch with her feminist side, how defensive she got made me cringe.
When was the last time Rainbow Dash did something that didn't make you cringe? No, really, I'd like to see you weigh in on Rainbow Dash's character in the last 2 seasons.
Dash refusing to be feminine doesn't work in this society, and I think Lily Pete probably summed it up the best.
Oh Ninja, taking gender identity advice from Lily Pete is like taking anger management from Pastel Pros, or weight loss from Corpulent Brony, or animating advice from Minty Root. Honestly, I love and accept Lily Pete. And yes, I said accept, that's a tier higher than tolerate. She's just not very good at these things. I'm gonna skip over the whole magic argument, even though I totally refuse to believe, even though I feel that Dusedau couldn't be bothered to think back that far. And here's an example for that, by the way. He skipped 5 of the main 6 over butting heads with Discord to become friends off screen, even though that would have made for a series of entertaining episodes in the future. And yes, I realize I'm going out on a limb stating Discord could bounce well off of Pinky, AJ, Rainbow Dash, Rarity, and so on, as opposed to non-interaction, which was the entirety of What About Discord?
It portrays the intelligence of the characters and the audience for that matter as honestly insulting.
So your answer has been this whole time to be equal parts insulting? Wow, Neal Dusedau is your waifu. Closing thoughts. Once upon a time ago, I advised Finn the Pony to take down a work of his on the top 10 princesses on Adventure Time. I'd like to point out, in that video, it was filled to the brim with amazing, stellar, well thought out points, opinions, and perceptions, but needed a lot of fine-tuning. Your video isn't burdened by any of those things. I've disagreed with you in the past before. This review is so ass backwards, if Hasbro would have saw it back in the day, they would have asked you to write the first Equestria Girls. This review is so bad that you could put Michael Bay out of a job. This review is so bad, the next time I see you, I'm gonna ask if U-Bowl is your dad and did he offer to write this for you. Anyways, good night and good luck, kiddo. Oh, and if you stuck around this long, I'd like to remind everyone we have a brand new presenter other than myself on Analysis Daily. I would encourage you to go give that a look. Thank you!